And would you from Reflections of Truth, Reverend Rhonda. Welcome along, Rhonda.
Thank you, Bill, and lovely to see everybody this morning.
Great to see you.
And it's, I just so appreciate this technology that allows us to be together regardless of how far apart we are. And you're probably already aware, unless you never turn on any sort of any media of any sort, that this coming Thursday is America's Thanksgiving Day. Not that we hear about that on the TV or the radio or the newspapers. What we hear about, of course, is Black Friday, which makes no sense whatever in Australia, considering that our Thursday is not a public holiday. But in America, because Thanksgiving Day is the day when families traditionally get together, much more so than Christmas, and it's always on a Thursday. So it becomes a 4-day weekend where families get to actually spend some time together. And to encourage those families to go shopping, they have the Black Friday sales. So, of course, in Australia, we just have the Black Friday sales without having the most important thing about that week, Thanksgiving Day. We've taken on so many things from America, in our entertainment, even in our speech, and certainly one custom that I really dislike is wearing caps back to front, which is so totally inappropriate for our climate. But I do believe we're having a little revenge on America and turning the tables a little for the children of today, because our wonderful blue healer, Bluey, who, if you don't have children, you may not be aware, but Bluey is a blue healer with his family who live in Paddington here in Brisbane. You only have to look at the background to the cartoon to see all the old houses of Paddington. And apparently it's just gone viral globally, and we now have American children and even English children telling their parents they're going to the dunny. Don't you love it? So they're actually getting some of our sayings and some of our entertainment. If you haven't seen Bluey, I really recommend it. Go on ABC iView and look up Bluey. So why have we taken on all these American customs but have totally ignored the most important one of them all, which is Thanksgiving Day itself? We would benefit by changing our focus from what we want, what we wish, to appreciation of what we already have. Giving thanks for the many blessings we enjoy would help us to be open to greater blessings. I remember when my friend Gwen drove an old car and very much wanted a particular model of new car. And to access her suburb from Brisbane meant driving across Australia's longest bridge. I know Diane's familiar with this one, which is 2.7 kilometres long. Now that takes a little while to drive across, so it's a good time to actually do some changes to our thinking. And so Gwen decided that every time she was driving across the bridge, she would spend the time blessing her car, her old car, and giving thanks for it and thinking of all the benefits that it gave her. And she kept that up until, now she gives thanks while she drives across in her new car. That was exactly what she was wanting to buy. So Gwen was clear what new model of car she wanted, and she got it. But that's not always necessary. We can be open to whatever is for our highest good without necessarily knowing exactly what that is. If we're clear about what we want, if we're confident that that's the right path for us, then we can go ahead and visualize the end result. But sometimes we mightn't know what is for our highest good. And little side issue here, we certainly don't know what is best for our adult children or our grandchildren. They're on their spiritual journey, learning their soul lessons. And much as we would like to tell them how to live their lives and maybe even affirm that madly in prayer, we can't possibly know what somebody else's highest good is. All we can do is affirm that their highest good is theirs in divine order and divine timing. And for ourselves, it's best sometimes to surrender to spirit and let the good be established in divine order, perhaps greater good than we could have visualized for ourselves or our family. I sometimes hear people say that they're praying hard about something. If we can truly turn to the gift of faith within us, we don't need to pray hard, but to trust, to have faith. In fact, praying hard might be blocking a good outcome because of the energy we're giving to the problem. It's really praying without faith in the right outcome. Can there be such a thing as negative prayer? Can prayer actually be affirming a situation that is causing anxiety? I reckon I've seen that quite a bit through the years with spiritual counseling. You know, sometimes it's best to just be willing to let go and know that the greater good is on its way and is possible, and let's give thanks for it. Vera Dawson-Tate, one of the unity ministers of the 20th century, writes in her book, Take Command, we may allow ourselves to be driven by negative experiences resulting from fears about ourselves, about others, fears about our job, fears about our social relations, fears about our finances. So focusing on those things is not going to lead to our highest good. In Unity, we teach affirmative prayer, affirming the truth behind the appearance. So whatever the situation is, let's know that there is good in that situation, that spirit is everywhere present, and spirit is all good. So how can there not be good in any situation? So with affirmative prayer, we affirm life and wholeness rather than giving power to illness. We affirm substance manifesting rather than be caught up in the lack. We affirm peace, harmony, love in relationships that don't seem to be demonstrating these things. I think it's important to check whether we are really using affirmative prayer, giving our energy to the highest good, or whether we're giving energy to the challenge. If a personal situation is causing us anxiety or even fear, if our fear or anxiety about a situation is stronger than our faith in the outcome of good, we're affirming the wrong thing. For mothers anxious about their family, about their grown-up children, about their grandchildren, I especially find this with parents anxious about a particular situation their family might be experiencing. Sometimes what they need to do is just let go. Letting go is the way we let good be established. Just as an example, a lady that I've been doing some spiritual counseling with was very worried and anxious about her daughter who needed to sell a property. And she even put a date on it, that it was going to happen by this date. And I realized the mother was putting so much energy into this problem that I felt that she could be actually stopping the property from selling. And so after we'd talked about that and she'd done some conscious letting go of the situation and just affirming the highest good for her daughter, whatever that was, within days, the property sold. So a good lesson in letting go. You know, we can have concern for the country, the planet, the environment, and all its beings. But let's be careful that we're celebrating the good on our planet and not fearing what can happen. This month, of course, the power that I know you in Unity of Melbourne at any rate are focusing on is release, the power of release. And it's very important to use that power of release to let go of fear, to let go of anxiety, to let go of the very things that might be blocking our good. Many years ago, Reverend James Gaither wrote an article for Unity magazine. It was about the visualization process. And you know what we usually teach in Unity is that you think about what you want and you picture it in finest detail. You put all the detail there and you affirm that, and you know exactly what it is you want and possibly even when you want it by. But he suggested that sometimes we're not even sure what our highest good is. And sometimes it's more effective to be willing to let go to spirit to bring about that good. And so what Jim Gaither suggested was choose a date, maybe a couple of months ahead of time, but a date that's special for some reason, a date where you know where you're going to be that day, you know what you're going to be doing. Now, when I tried this out, I had a friend's wedding coming up in a couple of, in about 2 months' time. And so I used that wedding as the experience of Jim Gaither's suggestion. And the idea was that every day in my meditation, I would take myself to that situation. And all I knew was that I needed to make some changes in my life, but I really wasn't sure what those changes would be for my highest good. But I would visualize that wedding. I would visualize the family all being together for the wedding. And that I would be telling them about these changes that I was making in my life. And Jim's suggestion was, then you look back to the day that you're actually affirming all of this. And don't try to work out what has to happen in the meantime, what steps have to be taken. Just be willing to look back and say, oh yeah, this is what I visualized doing 2 months ago. And so each day when you do it, of course, the date that you're looking back to is a shorter time. And the arrangements for the wedding went ahead, and you know that was decided the family would all meet the night before for dinner in a nice restaurant with white cloths. And I didn't know that was the case, but I knew that we were all meeting the night before at a restaurant. And so I thought, oh, that's a good, I'll add that to my visualization that we're actually sitting in a nice restaurant with white cloths on the table and nice wine glasses and silver cutlery. You know, I kind of had this picture, and I was very excitedly telling the family, you know, what my next step in life was. And to my I don't know that it was actually to my surprise. I was going to say to my surprise, but I mean, I'd been doing this for 2 months, so it was no longer a surprise. It was something that I was quite sure was going to happen. But sure enough, the night before that wedding, there we were all sitting at the table, white cloths, silver cutlery, glasses, just how I visualized it. And I was telling them about some major changes that I was making in my life, starting the very next day. And I thought, you know, that is such a good lesson in the fact that sometimes we don't need to put the details to what sort of car we want or where we want to go or what we want to do. Sometimes spirit knows what our highest good is. And we just need to be willing to accept and to even give thanks in advance. So that's a dilemma. Do we set goals, visualize the end we want, work out the steps that need to be taken and work determinedly to make it happen? Or do we give thanks for what is and affirm that greater good is ours in divine time and divine order? In the book of Job, we read, "You will decide on a matter and it will be established for you." We need to ask ourselves, what do I choose to bring about by my thoughts and feelings and my beliefs? But sometimes we just need to be willing to surrender to spirit and let the highest good be established in divine order. When we talk about release, we often think about releasing negative beliefs. But sometimes it's good to use our power of release to let go of our own determination to manifest what we want, especially when it involves somebody else. It is possible that sometimes our determination to make something happen just how we want it is actually blocking the highest possible good. We might find if we manifest something out of determination and dogged focus on it, that even if that comes about, we find that outcome does not make us happy, is not what we imagined. If something we've been praying for is not happening, it could be that our praying is the very thing that's stopping the good from happening. Perhaps it's time to let go and be open to a different situation, a different outcome. Perhaps it's time to just surrender to spirit. Perhaps it's time to use our power of release to let go of old dreams and be willing to let spirit establish the highest good. Let's make this week of Thanksgiving Day a time to be grateful for the blessings we already have. I love the custom Americans have at the Thanksgiving table before they eat. They go around the table and each person shares something that they are giving thanks for, something they are grateful for. Perhaps we could do that on a personal basis by writing a Thanksgiving list. But let's also be open to greater good, giving thanks in advance for good that we may not even be able to visualize. There's a very wise old saying in unity, "This or something better, Lord." Could there be something better waiting for us to be ready to accept it? This or something better, Lord. Let's take time in the silence to be thankful for what we have and also to be open to the something better. And to take us into that special quiet place within our own consciousness. I invite you to listen to one of my favorite songs for meditation. It's called "In the Stillness." So while this is playing, just to give yourself permission to relax physically, to just let go of all the thoughts that fill the mind, to just sit in the silence Now, if something comes to you from this talk, it might be that you want to jot it down before you forget it. But other than that, let's just sit in the silence and listen to this beautiful song, In the Stillness.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace, and I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace, and I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. In the stillness of this moment I feel love. I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I feel love. I feel love, and I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I am peace. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace. I am peace, and I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment I am peace. I am love. I am peace.
And so let's just hold on to that feeling of peace, peace within us, peace around us, sending a vibration of peace out into the community, out into the very atmosphere of the planet. And let's take our attention to the heart center, the seat of love, and send out that vibration of love, making sure that we've filled ourselves with that vibration of love so that we can send it out to others. And in the stillness of the silence, just take a moment to think of friends or family who may be on our prayer lists. And let's just know for them that all is well, that there is nothing to be anxious about, that the Christ within and around them draws them to their highest good. And let's know this for ourselves too, that the Christ within draws us to our highest good. And maybe we don't need to know what that good is, but we can be open and receptive to it. So let's sit with that for a minute. Just be open and receptive to greater good for ourselves and others. And lastly, let's all just take in that idea of Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving week. And let's give thanks for all the blessings that we receive and that we enjoy in our lives. How lucky we are to live on this planet. How fortunate we are to live in this country. And let's all individualize our gratitude for the opportunities that we have in life, in love, in joy. And let us all say together, thank you, thank you, thank you. Together, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we come up from this place of stillness, I want to share another song, a special one that touches the angel within each one of us. Angels for each other in unity.